most dentists do not know that their unanswered call rate is in the 30s. And so instantly you're failing from a customer service standpoint, like right out of the gate. But the doctor has no idea. If you made him or her guess what their unanswered call rate was, they would say, oh, it's 5% or 1%. I even have doctors who are like, it's 0%. We don't miss any calls. And really, they're missing a third of their calls. Welcome to another episode of Dental Rift. I'm your co-host, Gary Bird. I'm the CEO of SMC National. We provide predictable new patient flow for offices just like yours.
I am Tanner Applegate, co-host as well, and CEO and founder of Unified Dental. We are a SaaS platform that helps you manage all of your passwords and websites all in the same plate.
We have
Gary, I have to say,
oh, go ahead.
Before you jump into that, I gave Gary a hard time once for saying I'm the host, and now he says he's co-host. But the problem is the episode never aired, right? We ended up with an issue. So I just think it's really funny that if you guys, for those that are frequent listeners, you may notice that change in Gary's tonality. That's why. That's the story behind the story.
Well, yeah, no, you were right, though. You were like, I mean, we could have both been the host, or we can do co-host, or whatever. It's good. I love it. I took it to heart. So, okay. So, three things. I got three like really, really, really hot topics for you guys today. Number one, and I think this is going to be the best topic, and we're doing it first, is Disneyland experience at a dental office. And is insurance preventing you from having that? Like, not possible to have that kind of experience? I'm super fascinated about that one. We have one around picking people up at the airport, and I think people will like that topic. And the last one is an AI critic prompt that will absolutely blow your mind. If you're using ChatGPT or any AI, this prompt will absolutely revolutionize the way that you use it. But before we jump into those, Tanner, do you want to talk about the events that we have coming up?
Yeah, it's just wanted to give a quick shout out where you can find us coming up. I will be at the Women in DSO as well as the ADSO at the end of March. All right, so those are kind of the two most imminent ones you'll find me at in March. How about you, Gary? Where are you going to be at?
I will not be at those. I will be speaking at my next event that I'll be at is at Simplifies Amplified event. I'll be hosting a panel on AI automation. And we'll have several in marketing, AI automation in marketing, and I'll be hosting a panel on that. So super excited about that. I
was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I'm hosting a panel at that for AI too, and I was like, wait, are we hosting the same panel? Did they fire me without telling me? But mine's not in marketing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. AI automation in marketing. Yours is in probably around ops or clinical. Yeah. And then somebody's probably doing clinical, I would imagine. So that's really, really cool. So I'll be doing that. That's May 10th through the 12th. That's going to be an exciting one. And then I got some, we're hosting 4 events over the next 12 months. And so we are going to start marketing those like crazy. We are doing one at the Dykema event. You can go to their website and check that out. And then we're also hosting a Full Arch Advantage in August to help you create, convert, and close more full arch cases. And I think we're going to ask you to speak at that one if we haven't already, Tanner, around tech stack. But anyways, that's what we have coming up.
So if you're going to be there at any of those, stop by and say hi. We love chatting with listeners and getting to know you a little bit more. So if you're in person at those events, we'd love to get to know you.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about Disneyland experience at a dental office and why that might not be possible.
Well, so the reason where this came up is I just got off of a Disney cruise. I've been on cruises before, right? This is the first time in a Disney cruise. My mom was celebrating a big birthday, and so we all went out with the extended family. So Disney cruise too was like 3 times more expensive than all these other cruises. So I was like, all right, let's figure out what is Disney doing. Are they just charging off their name differently than these other ones? So I kind of want to go through some of the things that I recognize on this cruise where I was like, Disney was full on superior to these other cruise companies that I've been with. Okay. So for reference, I've been with Norwegian and Royal Caribbean. And so kind of middle of the line, right? Royal Caribbean's okay, but they're still not kind of like top of the line cruise companies. So with Disney though, first thing that I want to point out that I thought was very interesting, and Disney is known for its entertainment, is that their entertainment group normally you have like 8 to 10, maybe 15 people where like they do the shows at night and they have the same people doing different shows, right? They usually have 8 to about 15 bodies doing this. And the Disney one was full on like Broadway style where they had 25 plus crew members on these plays, right? So every single one of those have to be extremely talented in what they do. They're usually not coming from places where labor is cheaper, right? So you have to pay for each one of these talents. So that was something that the Disney cruise said, hey, this is important to us. We're going to invest in that, right? So I thought that was impressive. The second thing too that I thought was impressive was that they did just drop in Kid Lab, which you kind of expect from Disney, but the number of kid like people to child ratio was extremely impressive, right? So now all of a sudden Disney is essentially paying for someone to babysit my kid all the time, that they have to increase their expenses in order to pay for people to be there. And again, I noticed that they weren't from cheap countries, right? They were US, Europe, Australia, like those type of countries. It wasn't like they went out to the places where they had a lot of lower cost of living. And so that was another area. And then there was things like just like what you'd expect from Disneyland or Disney World, is their cleanliness was the highest I've ever seen, right? So you know that they're paying bodies to be there everywhere. So ultimately, kind of as I was going through all this, what stood out to me was that Disney had a huge amount of team members to customer ratio compared to other ships, right? So where people cut the most cost, right, is they take down the number of team members they have in order to generate their revenue. As a result, though, you're paying a lot more to be on Disney. So let's compare that then, Gary, to a dental office, right? The Disney experience, in my mind, sure, you're paying a lot and it continues to go up. But I also do think that Disney staffs up higher than most places because of this quality of experience they have, right? Like if you look around, their cast members at Disneyland and Disney World, like their janitors are people that are also doing like creative things, right? They're drawing Mickey faces on the floor, or they're engaging with their customers, right? Like you don't get that from entry level team members.
No, you don't. And I think even more important, and this is something that I really learned early on, or recently in business, I should say, that I didn't realize early on, is that coming up with solutions is not the same as coming and being able to identify the correct problem. So anybody can come up with solutions, but if you're coming up with solutions for the wrong problem, it doesn't matter. I would argue that Disney is hyper-focused on the right things that provide customer service, and often dental offices don't even know what the things are to provide the customer service. Let me give you an example. Most dentists do not know that their unanswered call rate is in the 30s. And so instantly you're failing from a customer service standpoint, like right out of the gate. But the doctor has no idea. If you made him or her guess what their unanswered call rate was, they would say, oh, it's 5% or 1%. I even have doctors who are like, it's 0%. We don't miss any calls. And really, they're missing a third of their calls. So just that little nuance there of being able to identify the right problem versus not identifying the right problem is going to make all the difference in the world.
I agree with that Disney is definitely focusing on the right things. My question, though, is that Disney has similar problems to what dental offices face, which is how do we get that data? Right? Obviously, Disney has the capability and the funds to be able to figure out the data that they need in order to be able to make sure they're measuring the right things, right? Like as soon as I go and stand in a queue to get in line for some ride, Disney knows how long I've been standing in that ride, right? Like they know exactly, they have all that stuff detailed in. And so maybe the argument is we just need to get better at recording and figuring out what numbers we need to be able to track in our dental offices.
100%. No, I agree with that. I think that's what it boils down to, is that, cool, we want to create a better experience, but what is a better experience? What does that actually look like? And that's where like people like Smile Direct Club, they do a great job at this. But I know clinically they don't do as good of a job, right? And a lot of dentists don't like them. But from a marketing and customer experience standpoint, early on in at the beginning of the funnel, killer job, better than almost everybody else. And they go in and they actually went and solved the problem. Now they didn't follow it all the way through and figure it out all the way to the back end, but that's a separate conversation. So yeah,
let's touch on that though, because I think that my argument too would be that Disney didn't always have that data. Right. I don't think that certain access to data we have now thanks to technology was always available, but Disney has been known for their customer service for a long time before they could even access that data. So my argument could be then is we blame it on the access to data, but the reality too is what comes first, the culture or the data? And I think that we quickly kind of say, hey, it's the data, we don't have access to it. But the reality is too is there's a lot that we could improve by improving the culture.
Yeah.
Right. So what
I totally
is it
agree with that.
we learned from Disney about how to improve the culture as we are improving the process?
What's their main thing is like creating a magical experience or something like that? What's their like why or their mission or whatever?
Yeah.
It's something
like
whatever.
That.
So it's like we want to create a magical experience for the kids. So then they create this immersed environment to create this magical experience. And if there's trash all over the floor, that's not a magical experience. So then what they do is they have these trash cans at Disneyland that go, when you throw away the trash, it actually goes down underground into a bin. So that way they never overflow. It's impossible to overflow, right? So that you have these different things that they do to create that experience. So that I agree with you. Like if a dental office doesn't have like, hey, our mission is the patient, and to give them the best experience at a dental office that they've ever had or whatever, then you're not going to get those outcomes. If your mission as a dental organization is to be doctor centric, then you're going to make the best place for the dentist to work, which is not going to be the best experience for the patient necessarily.
Yeah. And I think that it gives and takes with process, right? I can go and hire somebody that has an amazing customer service personality and will bring that element to my culture. But when I don't give them a process of how to do their job well, right now, all of a sudden they're going to be stressed and they're not going to perform at their best. And so it kind of goes hand in hand, right? And so if you think about like with Disney is obviously highly focused on getting the right person in the right seat. And then they've gone through and refined all the processes to teach them to get to that data, right? I think in the dental office, a lot of the times you're right. I think it starts from, do we have even defined what it looks like to be in the right seat, let alone being able to hire and train or even hold people accountable to that. So it goes back then ultimately to those core values. Are you actually living and breathing them? Because it will make a financial difference on your end of like your bottom line, because you can build out processes on top of it if you have that figured out.
How do you think insurances are preventing this from actually happening for dental offices?
Yeah, I think as I thought through this too, going back to that ratio of customer to team members, Disney can continue to raise prices in order to increase that ratio and therefore provide you a better experience, right? But the dental office doesn't control their prices all the time. They're beholden to an insurance company that says, oh yeah, I'll give you a 5% bump this year. You've been a good kid. Right. And so now all of a sudden, if you're in network, in order to increase your patient flow, you don't control the amount of revenue that you make directly off those procedures. If you're out of network, now it's a whole different marketing game. I think it's very possible, but scaling that becomes very different for associates and all of that branding and all of the awareness of the patients, et cetera.
Here's the thing, Tanner, too. Like, I don't think it's fair to compare a vacation to getting a medical procedure done. Like, I just don't, I don't think you're ever going to be able to compare those two. I think you can draw inspiration from them, but I don't think you can compare them. I think that when you compare, you need to be doing it in similar verticals. So in the medical world, what can you create that experience? Let me give you an example in the marketing world. I get people all the time that go, Gary, I want my dental site to look like Tesla's. I want a Tesla website, or I want an Apple website. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, you do realize they sell products, right? Are you going to sell a product? No, we're not going to sell a product. Well, their site's built to sell more products. And so they, as an example, Apple buries their phone number on like 10 pages deep. You have to click 10 times to get to their phone number. That's on purpose. You wouldn't want to do that on a service website. That doesn't make as much sense. So you have to be very careful when cross-comparing. You disagree with that?
I would disagree on the comment of you got to be careful comparing outside of your vertical, because I think that every vertical has regulation that's getting moved in. Really what it is, insurance is essentially third-party regulation, right? My dad he's an environmental scientist. He ended up working in coal mines his whole life. And after being at the same coal mine for like 20 years, they ended up closing down that coal mine because of the amount of federal regulations just started increasing to the point where it was no longer a profitable thing for them to run. Right. And so now they had to figure out financially, how do we reduce our expenses while increasing our revenue? And that's really kind of the game that every business plays. Right. And so, sure, we can't necessarily go in and dictate our revenue increase, but we have to go in and figure out where are we going to spend that revenue in order to get the most optimal outcome. I think that the reason DSOs
I agree with that, but I don't think you could ever have a dental procedure that is similar to a Disney trip in experience ever.
I think that exactly the same.
If you're putting a drill in my tooth versus I get to go over here and eat a corn dog, and you're like, yeah, the same emotion was invoked from that. Like that would be wild. Like if you were able to do that.
I definitely, obviously, at face value, I agree with you, right? Like you can't get the same level of exhilaration by going to the dentist. Otherwise, we put Disney out of business. But the reality is all of the elements that Disney does in order to elevate that experience are something that you can replicate in the dental world in order to do something. Something as simple as like,
I agree.
Disney does not have clutter everywhere, right? How many dental offices do you walk into where their front desk is cluttered like crazy and they have things everywhere across their room? Like little things like that, like you're making someone anxious by seeing all of that, even if they won't verbally explain that to you. Disney knows that, so they don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. And even things like the smell of the room, right? When you walk in, Disney has curated different smells throughout the experience for you to feel different ways. The dental office, though they're getting better thanks to certain people in the industry, they haven't embraced that the way that they could or should because it's an expense that they don't want to add on.
Yeah.
Right. So I agree.
All right. Yeah. So I think we beat that topic up pretty good. I got one for you. So, all right, I got a question for you. Should you feel obligated to pick up your friends from the airport?
Oh my
and
God.
I'll give you my perspective on this. Okay. So for me, like my schedule, I pack my schedule because I work virtually, right? So anything that takes more than like 30 seconds, like messes up my schedule because everything's just like stacked, all my stuff all day long for 10 hours straight, either to-dos or working out or all those kind of things. So if someone's like, hey, can you pick me up from the airport tomorrow? For me, like you are asking me to drop thousands of dollars basically to come pick you up. Like, and it's not because I don't want to see you, and it's not because I don't like you. It's because I've already obligated my time, especially in like 2-3 weeks out. Like it's already all spoken for. So for me, I never ask anybody to pick me up from the airport. I don't even like asking my wife to pick me up from the airport. I'm like, no, I'll Uber. Everybody got stuff because it's, $40, $50, whatever, right? And there's this argument online of people who are going back and forth, and they're both arguments are pretty good. So I was just curious of what you thought. Should people automatically Uber and give their friends the space and realize that people work and all that kind of stuff, or should the friends be more willing to sacrifice for their friends and go pick them up?
Yes, to both. My thought perception on this is there's this book that I've read recently. I absolutely love it. If you read it, Gary, I think we could go off for like 10 hours on this podcast about it, called Die with Zero, right? How do you balance your time? How do you balance between time and earning money? And what do you do with that, right? You have a finite amount of those resources. Okay. And one of the things that they say is like, you have to come up with your time, right? What is an hour worth of your time? For you said, okay, it's worth thousands of dollars, right? For my friends and family know not to ask me because I'm easy to say, no, sorry, I'll send you an Uber. But they're smart by asking my wife. And so my wife will then come and ask me to go and pick them up. And I am way more likely to say yes to my wife because my value of an hour for her is a lot more than my value of hours for my friends or my family, right? And so that's the way that I kind of view it, is like, okay, what is the relationship that it's dependent on, and how much do I value that relationship?
Wow. Okay. I just bought the book, Die with Zero. I just bought it. So I just got it on my phone. So I'm going to listen to that. But yeah, it's a tricky one, right? Because I don't want people to think that I don't value them. It's just that I could Uber you to my house and I will pay for your Uber. I'd rather pay for your Uber than pick you up. It's same with moving, right? Asking people to help you move. I'd rather help you pay for movers than go help you move because it's actually cheaper for me.
You ever seen The Kid?
No.
The Kid, it's an old Bruce Willis movie out of like the 90s or something.
Oh,
Anyways,
I think maybe. I remember something like that.
He's some multi-billionaire guy or whatever that the dad says the same thing. And he says, didn't you hear the movers that I paid for you? And he said, I didn't, it wasn't about the movers. It was about the time with you. Right. And I think that's
fair. That's fair. But I would rather go do something fun with you.
Right.
Like moving isn't fun. And I don't view that as bonding time really. Like
it's
I view
the love language
work.
though of the person.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
If their love language is service, then totally it is something that's meaningful to them. But if their love language is quality time or something else like that, gifts, maybe it's not the same way.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very interesting. There's actually a book, The 5 Love Languages of Work. So you got the 5 love languages and then they translated it over to work. It's basically the same thing, just another way to sell books.
Right.
But I thought it was interesting that they translated it.
Have you read it?
Yeah, I read both of them. Yeah.
I haven't read the work one.
It's the same. Like, if you know the 5 love languages of just the regular one, then you just move it over. Right. It's work. The touch one was weird. The touch one was weird, though. I was like, ooh, how are you guys going to go? How are you going to do on the touch one?
I read one with, like, obviously the original, and then I read one for the kids. And I did like how they used examples with kids differently. And so it was worth it. So it might be interesting for me to read the work one, too. But my wife's is service. And so when she asked me to do it, that's why I know, okay, this is a love language thing where it's important to her. She's also protective of my time.
My wife's love language is the same as mine. It's food. So we always just like going places with good food. And as long as there's good food and good coffee there, then let's go there. Everywhere we travel, anytime it's like, do you want to go to this country? I'm like Googling up their food and their coffee there. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to go there.
My guess, Serge's love language would be quality time. Is that true?
Quality time or words of affirmation. Like if someone's just like, hey,
okay, that's true.
Yeah, like if someone's just like, hey, good job. I really appreciate you brought a lot of value. I'm just like, cool, that's all I need. I'm good. Gifts are definitely not it. Like when people give me things, I feel obligated to like do something back for them. So it actually has the opposite effect on me. The being like, I'll still be super grateful and thankful, but I just feel even Christmas and like I don't even tell people my birthday because I don't want to get stuff from people. So that's I'm weird that way. But yeah. All right. We got 2 more minutes. All right. I'll share this last one in 2 minutes. AI critic prompt. Have you heard of this one?
I've heard of it, but go in a little bit deeper. I'm curious where you're going to love this.
All right. So I'm actually gonna share a real example. Okay, so I wrote a post. I said, write this into a compelling social media post, write a hot hook, and write it in an 8th grade level, use emojis, and then I just write this really short sentence. So if you're listening online and not watching, this is on ChatGPT. I had the amazing privilege to host a 3-hour CE course on dental marketing at UCLA. We covered a ton of topics, and it was a highlight of my month. So then it writes this post, right? And I said, "What? This is the critic prompt. What could you improve about this post?" So then it gives me 3 things that it could improve on, right? And then I said, "Great, yes, do all 3. And for number 1, here's more context because I needed more information to do one of the improvements." So then it made the post a little bit better. And then I said, "What could you make better about this post?" And then it gave me 3 more. And I said, "Yes, do all 3," and it made it even better. And then I said, "What could you improve?" And then it gave me 3 more. And I said, "Yes, do it." And then finally it gave me this post, which was the best of all the posts. And basically what you're able to do with ChatGPT that you're not able to do with humans, we have blinders on what we can improve on because we have higher estimations of ourselves than what reality is. So we can only improve in very small ways, right? Where ChatGPT and AI can actually do a 360 look at itself because it doesn't have ego. So it instantly goes in and goes, oh yeah, we can improve all these things about it. And if you keep asking it to improve it, it'll actually keep making it better and better and better. So it's such a quick hack. You ask it 3 times, like, hey, make it better. Can you make it better? What could you make better? And it will quickly improve whatever you're trying to create.
I'm going to give you some homework, Gary, before we jump off.
Yep.
You should take a transcript of one of our podcasts, plug it into ChatGPT, and do that. Do 3 times how it thinks it could have done that better.
All right. And well, here's one of the downsides though with ChatGPT. You can't do like a 20-minute episode. You can only do like 5 to like 6 minutes. So maybe I'll take segments. I'll take one of the segments.
All right. Okay, man. Well, I'm excited to hear how that goes next week.
Peace.
All right. See you.